This is my Charles McKinney collection. If you've not seen his channel, you need to get over there and see it. He does phenomenal work. You can see here he's worked a lot in Georgetown, Flint Ridge, and oh yeah, up there's my 10 Bears arrow. This is a Blue Jay arrow. Excellent work. Eye candy, every bit of it. Now this is a piece of Texas rock that he's done, and there's a story that goes with this. I still owe both him and Dave a video on this. That is tough rock, and he has done a phenomenal job with it. It's beautiful. And this is a point from one of his videos he did. Thebes looking thing. And I love this point, both the shape, but it's also got a piece of the cortex on it, or really close to the cortex, a white little spot up here on the tip. I love it when a point still has some of the original skin on it. I think he intended me to work on this biface, but I'm not going to touch it. I'll just break it. Another beautiful piece of Flint Ridge here. It's tough stuff. He's gone across some seams, and you can see he's just made it thin as can be, and it's just beautiful. But I've pulled this out for a reason. He did send me a piece of Flint Ridge. It's my one and only piece I've ever had. So I'm going to crack into it today, and I'm going to grab a couple of his points here, see if I can figure out how big of a piece I can get out of it. Something probably in this size range, I'm guessing. So I'm going to take these with me today. Say my first and only Flint Ridge. Quick look at the piece. I see there's a few flaws in it. It's really smooth, so I assume it's heat treated. There's one seam that goes all the way through the piece. I can see it on both sides here, and it's got a bump here where a previous flake is rippled over it. So just trying to take note of it. I need to be careful around that thing. I'm going to try to hit parallel with it and not try to come across it. A few of the rough patches. I'd love to get something this size out of it. I think it's going to be a bit of a stretch for me. I'll be working with my recent tools that I've developed. I'm working on some soft hammer this year. But something this size I probably ought to be able to get into. Start off here with my noose. How about my new moose billet? Still trying to get this pencil grip and swing down. In fact, I think this is only the second or third thing I've done with it. And almost immediately, right off the bat, I lose track of what I'm doing, and I go right across that seam like I did not want to do. The flake broke right there, which scares me, but it did hold together, and I'm just going to take note of that and make sure I don't do that again. Now, I know this doesn't look like much Using the side of the billet like this was a big moment for me. This was a big uh-oh moment for me. Now I'm going to restick this flake, and I'm going to do it because I'm still going up a ridge, you can see there. This can oftentimes dive if you're going over a hump, but in this case I'm pretty confident I can get away with it. I don't want an island developing there because of that. And we managed to get most of it cleared, so it turned out good this time. So I start developing a nice little stack there. Got to dig myself out of it. Using the side of the billet, this worked really well earlier. Gotta take a few more swings. You'll notice I'm going parallel to the seam this time. That's a deep one. While I was off for a day or two, all I could think about was using that side of that billet so well. I wanted to come back and try it some more. This piece was not thinning fast enough, and I felt like I was having good success with that when I did use it, so I came back here and I think I found my new favorite way to use it. I think the reason this works so well for me is this is how I've trained my arm to swing when using hammer stones. The little pencil grip give me some difficulties. Oof. Some shaft punching with the new shaft punch attachment. Very happy with the way that's working. This piece is starting to get thin enough. The little idiosyncrasies of the stone are starting to come out. Up here on what's becoming the tip, these little bands, they are beautiful, and that end flakes so nicely. This other end down here, where you see me pressure flaking right now, is a different story. This part of the stone, not so much on this side, but on the opposite corner, is really kind of crusty. It's giving me some trouble. Yeah, this little section right here. still think this is the best method I've found to keeping a tip on when you're working on the end. This is all Edbo's idea, and it works wonderfully for me. Now right here, you'll see me cut open into a infamous Flint Ridge crystal pocket. You thought I was going to get away without having one of those, but it blew right through nicely. Some nice little vertical flaking going here. I was out in the middle of doing this and I thought, wait a minute, I have that new moose horn that should work really nice on these fine points. So I grabbed that thing, dropped it in the clinch, had a go of it. It did actually pretty well. I think I'm getting better at holding it correctly. This must be pressure treated because it flakes like a dream too when you're pressure flaking. I've heard all kinds of horror stories about how it doesn't. I start having some issues here on the back side of this quartz pocket. Everything I shoot in there just kind of rounds up and over. I can't get it to cut that little lump off. I wear it down quite a ways, but nothing will slice through it. I assume it's that quartz somehow causing that material to bow out and be a little tougher, or it just responds differently. Sorry about all the dog noises. I think both the dog and the neighbor have gone crazy. I think they got the rabies. I do apologize about the camera. It just kept dropping in and out of focus, and I finally got that fixed, but unfortunately it wasn't in time for this one. Now, despite being the crustier end of the material, this base does thin out nicely. It'll haft beautifully. I grew up around the part of the country where we have a lot of Elko points. So even though this is more of an eastern material, I think I'm going to make a nice little Elko eared point out of this. It's a little bit big for it, but it'll do. Just punch in or pressuring in a few guide flakes that I can hopefully follow some notches in. I was not paying real close attention at this point though. I'm making one critical mistake. Right here in this corner, I am following that crack, that seam right up for a notch. Just seems like a bad idea. We'll either get away with it or I'm going to split this thing in half. I mean, I'm not keeping track, and it doesn't really matter, but mine looks bigger than Charles. I figured to be a proper Elko eared point, you have to have some really fine ears here on the base, so we're going to thin even more up into there and give us a nice, very deep bifurcation here. Alright, so what do we got here? About, we'll call it 36 by 6.5 millimeters. So is that about a 5.5 to 1? I always wait till the end these days to put the tip on and sharpen it. Saves a lot of tears. And we're 69.5 mil long. Excellent. It's a lot of fun. This is my first chunk of Flint Ridge, and you can see that little quartz pocket. The seam held together. I couldn't be happier about that. Managed to retain a little bit of that striping. So quite happy. This side's a little bit rougher, but it did okay too. And those ears held together. That's always good news.
Shut up!